welcome to This Shit Can't Be It. If you're here, my friend, we're here and we're going to have real unfiltered conversation. And it's all about rising through the hard things, reclaiming your personal power. So, whether you're here to feel seen, to be heard, to get inspired, find tools of your own healing, growth, and evolution, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Ann Oikel, and today we're going to be diving in from people pleasing to true freedom. My guest is Jonathan, and he has been shaped by cycles of breakthroughs, but most profoundly came when he was near death experience in the Himalayas. His story is about moving from people pleasing to living in his true freedom, and he's here to share all the raw truths, the breakthroughs, and the wisdom he's gained along the way. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you, Anne. It's so good to be here.
Nice. So let's just dive right in. I'm not one for for a lot of small chat when I get on here. I just go right straight for the gusto.
Perfect. Me too.
So so tell me, what was life like before you actually started to get into everything that you've experienced? So before the Himalayas, what was life looking like, and when did you notice the people pleasing behavior kicking in?
Mhm. Well, life before the fall down the mountain, the Himalayas in Nepal, that was me working as a technician, working on forklifts, working on cars, working on all sorts of different machinery, just the regular 40-hour work week. And before I left on this trip, I told myself, you know what? I can't do this anymore. So I actually quit when the company that I was working for had an option for me to go on a sabbatical. And so I said, no, I can't come back to this. And at that point in time, I wasn't really realizing that I was people pleasing too much. It was just kind of felt normal. I was still young, 25 years old at the time. And then I went to go on a year around the world. And 2 months later, I was at the bottom of the mountain after having fallen and tumbling about 100 feet.
Oh my
And
sweet Jesus.
yes.
That is a long fall. Oh my Lord. So what did that accident, how did that impact you? How did that become your one of your biggest wake up calls?
Well, first off, I don't call it an accident.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because I kind of called it into existence. So
Oh,
it's not although I didn't plan for this,
no.
I didn't yeah, it still isn't an accident because I learned so much, and there are no
Mm,
things as accidents as far as I'm concerned in my life. So on the plane as I was flying to Nepal, I was sitting there thinking to myself, I am going to experience whatever I can experience to have the most amount of personal growth possible.
oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah.
I got it.
Yes. Yeah, not the way
So
you imagined. Yeah.
yeah, so
That's
that
one thing. Yeah. Like that's key because we often hear different people say, watch what you speak because if it's not clear enough, it can come into fruition in ways you weren't expecting. And it sounds like that's
yes,
exactly what happened to you.
exactly. Got more than
Wow.
I bargained for. Just a little shock and a little bonk on the head. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I fell, tumbled, and then the 9 people that I was with, they saved my life, even though I was paralyzed on 3 limbs, couldn't even fend for myself. They nurtured me all through the night. And then first thing in the morning, the helicopter came and picked me up and brought me down to Kathmandu for massive head surgery. Yeah, right in Kathmandu. Anyway,
Wow.
so after this experience, I started really looking at what my words are, right? Because
Hmm.
obviously I'd put two and two together. I'm like, oh, I should really watch what I wish for. So that's kind of got things going. And then failed relationship. That's kind of all culminated into me learning that I'm actually a people pleaser and that I shouldn't do that anymore because me people pleasing is actually lying to others. So if
Yeah,
I'm not speaking my truth, I'm withholding that truth to try to make the other person okay, but it's a false security.
it is. Yeah. And
And
that's
I've gotten,
powerful.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I've gotten to this point where, well, my many relationships have come and gone, and failed for the main reason, the common denominator, obviously. And now, actually, in the last year to 2 years only, I've really been getting much more okay with not people pleasing, telling my truth, knowing that the other person will take care of themselves in whatever way they need to. And then at the same time, I've been soothing my own inner child to make sure that, okay, it's all good. Yes, just because you had to behave like this when you were a child, 5, 6, 7 years old, doesn't mean you have to do this now. And
Right.
that's kind of that's the big progression in the matter of, what has it been, 3 minutes?
Yes. And I grin, like I'm almost borderline laughing because as you're talking, I'm like, oh my God, the reflection is immense because I've not been known as a people pleaser. I've been very blunt with my words, not realizing the impact and how much I can hurt other people in my words, like totally oblivious to my impact on other people when I was that age. Like 20 to 30 was just I was like the Tasmanian devil. But I had people pleasing traits in me, but nobody seen them because I was always so blunt and I spoke the truth. So although I
Oh,
had that aspect of me and I like you say unaware, so my
yeah.
programs touch on hyper awareness because I
Mhm.
had no idea, but I still had, and like I say, it was very subtle. I still had that people pleasing in me as well. I worried and always sought after my parents' approval, didn't realize it was doing it till after my mom passed away. And it took me a good many years to figure out why is my life so fucked up for back a lack of better terms. But on the
Right.
outside looking in, it didn't look that way, but it certainly felt that way. Like that's why this whole podcast is named This Shit Can't Be It. Because how many times do we sit down and say that either out loud or to ourselves? Because what people appear to view from the outside in is not what's actually happening in. And so I would seek my brother's approval, my mom and dad's approval, like my jobs, my manager's approval. Like I was always about pleasing the higher power, what I thought to be higher powers or higher authority,
Mhm.
and being taught to respect your elders. So that kind of plays into, and not you don't realize it, but that plays into the people pleasing because you don't want to
Absolutely.
offend them, right? But at on the playing level field, like I would call shit out as it was, not realizing the impact that could have probably been worded a little softer. So it's funny you
Fair.
you say that because I'm grinning, borderline laughing, and I'm like, oh my Lord. But yeah,
I,
it's
I really like what you just said about um, people pleasing, and I think this was your exact words, were your exact words, pleasing the higher powers.
mm,
And that reminded me that when we are infants, the higher power is mom, right?
hmm
Mom and dad, they are our God, because they
yep,
have our lives in their hands. So of
literally.
course we have to please that individual, otherwise we would die. And
Yeah.
for me, it just got stuck in there in the subconscious and kept coming back all the way for 30 odd years.
Yeah.
Which
I know. Tell me about it, right? I'm like, and counting. Like I was
well,
46 before I started my deep dive into my personal development. Literally,
oh
deep
wow.
dive. Like personal development is happening all through your life, but I was so unaware.
Right.
This is why I am all about awareness. I was so unaware of who and what I was, and I was just constantly living for like chasing the job, the title, everything. Like I became a workaholic. I was 23 when my mom passed, so I became a workaholic.
Oh, wow.
Sociably acceptable addictions, right?
Of
Not
course, yeah.
not the drugs and the alcohol. Let's work
No.
our ass off till we drop, and then let's do it again and drop, and let's do it again and drop. So that was my routine. But because it's sociably acceptable and companies loved it because I worked my ass off for them, it it was never brought to my attention or my awareness until I had my
Mm,
child at the age of 34. And then I was like, she's now number one. So I started with what I thought was work-life balance, and that's give all my best hours to my work and give
mhm.
my husband and her the evening and the
Right.
weekends, because this is what we're programmed to do, right? This is sociably accept. This is the routine of life. Like I didn't have any business exposure. So, when we wind up in that, I call it a rat race, especially if you don't love it and you've never had business influence and you don't feel you have those options, but we do. It took me 46 years to really start taking care of me, diving into me. And it was Dr.
Mm,
Joe Dispenza that said, we live in this fight, flight, and freeze mode 90% of our day. We're going to end up with disease. And that's when I realized my body's already starting to break down. Illness is around the corner if I don't change the shit. So that's when I started my deep dive into personal development to shift, to figure out what was going on up in here that was creating my outer world. Because it was only at that point I realized that my outer world is developed from in here.
absolutely. Yeah.
So it
And
took a while.
yeah, that's interesting that your people pleasing showed up in the work environment, and mine
Mm,
showed up in mostly relationships, intimate relationships, to be more exact. Actually, I was almost the exact opposite to you in work situations,
yeah.
where I was not very not very welcomed by a lot of my bosses because I would just kind of go, well, this isn't a good policy, so I'm just going to do it my way instead. And they'd always be harping on me and go,
Yeah.
no, 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 you can't do it that way. I'm like, well, the other way is stupid. Why did you set it up this way? So yeah.
Yeah.
How with you in and your husband's relationship, was there people pleasing there as well, or did he just kind of get the scraps?
No, like we're very independent people. So we had early on never really set out to cater to each other's needs, but just be brutally honest with each other. And we've been that way forever and a day. Like we still laugh, joke, carry on. I love our
Oh,
relationship.
oh,
and
awesome, awesome.
it's not very often people go through life, still looking at their spouse like they just met them yesterday. And I'm
Hmm.
realizing how precious that is because it's a rarity. People get into stuck into routines, and not saying that we haven't. We have gotten stuck into routines, but we've always been so open and honest that we've been able to pull ourselves out of that. And I don't believe and I don't recognize that we've done a lot of breaking ourselves down to please the other. There is a little bit of it. Obviously, you're in a relationship, you're going to have some balances. There's times you're going to say, now might be the time for me to bite my tongue. They need to learn in their way. I don't need to be so blunt and in their face. So there's been a huge balance. But yeah, there's probably a little bit of that when you really sit down and think about it. Um, but it's not been a controlling factor by no means. No.
Hmm.
You know,
That's awesome.
we openly and communicate on a regular basis, and we come to a lot of decisions together.
Yeah.
And then
That,
there's sometimes when things are feeling very strong. If we're not in agreement, he does what he's going to do and I do what I'm going to do. But
all right.
we know we're that way, and as long as the fallout is not impacting our lives in a negative way, like it's not like he's going out and gambling thousands of dollars we don't have. Like there's none of that
Right.
happening. So
Yeah.
the impact is minute at the end of the day. But I know what he's like, he knows what I'm like, and we've learned to navigate it and do it gracefully. So yeah, it's strange because yeah, like the people pleasing, I think we all have it in us to a certain degree, but is it's just a matter, is it dominant in our relationships or not? And like you say, where? Because like you say, you didn't have it in the workplace. You were like
Yeah,
I
exactly.
was in the workplace. You're like, that doesn't work. Fuck you. Yeah.
Yeah, for in my relationships, it's been, yeah, very much like it was for you in the workplace, right? Where,
Yeah.
I would just overwork and give more than I should have, and and then hope for a little bit of something, a little bit of the scraps off of the kitchen table, and then I called that love. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that's not healthy. So
No, no, not for either of you. So how did you come to recognize and what did you do to start breaking that whole pattern? Because that's the awareness, like I say, is key. But then you got to do
it's
something about it.
oh man. Well, it started with years of therapy, and the one of the last times that I pulled up to my therapist's place, I pulled up and I parked right behind a brand new trailer, like a travel trailer. I go, you know, I helped pay for that. I'm good with that because that was a very, very good foundation for me to start, and was able to take care of a lot of my issues around the family, and just childhood, growing up kind of stuff. After that, um, somebody had given me a book, Codependent No More, and
Mm,
and I started just flipping through it a little bit here and there. Didn't really pay attention to it. This was 10 years ago.
wow.
And then uh, years ago, I started diving into what it means for me to heal. Of course, like doing my own healing journey around, falling down a mountain, because there's a lot of trauma that's still stuck in my body after that. And
Absolutely.
then it was, I think it was about 3 years ago, where I started actually going to 12-step groups. And the biggest one, the biggest influence for me was what a group that's called Adult Children of Alcoholics, where the that was how it started, as Adult Children of Alcoholics, but now has expanded to alcoholics and dysfunctional families.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And right off the bat, I'm like, yeah, I fit in. So I just started going regularly, and really learned how to sit with my own inner family first, and then I got to, first, well, and then I got to deal with the outside world after that. But really, really learned to kind of just sit with that inner child and go, it's okay, I've got you, I'm holding you, you can do whatever the heck you want to. This is a safe space. And
Yeah.
and it's been evolving and growing ever since then.
Inner child work can be powerful. Yeah. So what were some of the strategies, what were some of the things that you implemented that helped you navigate to make things a different habit so that you didn't go back to those old ways
Mm.
of people pleasing?
Oh, what a juicy question. I love it. I love it. I Okay, I love questions where, like, one question just opens up the field for hours of conversation.
I know, right?
So too bad we don't have another six
I
hours on
know,
this podcast.
right?
And okay, the one of the first tools that I used. Um, okay, I should backtrack. I
Okay.
was born and raised Catholic, stepped away from the church in my late teens, went full on the other direction, and then kind of settled in the middle that, I believe in higher power, and, I call it God, love, Holy Spirit, whatever, but I don't subscribe to the church and Bible way that it's portrayed.
Yes, I can
Anyway.
relate.
And of course, like, if anybody has their own religious beliefs, I don't judge.
No, me neither.
Yeah, it's their own connection to whatever they want to call their higher power.
Right.
Okay. That was one of the major stepping stones, is realizing that there is, in my belief, there is this greater power, this greater God, this greater spirit, and that if I wasn't able to handle anything, I would say, God, I can't take care of this. Can you do this for me? And I would actually sometimes take out my hand and I would go, here it is, do with it what you will. So that was one of the first tools that I used, and I still use it quite often. Like, if I get into a thought loop, I just go, God,
Surrender.
I can't. Yeah, exactly.
I struggled with that one. Carry
Well,
on. I'm better now.
Before we hit record, you had said that you're a little bit type A, right? A little control
very.
freak, right?
Very.
So,
Not a little, very. We can be honest.
Well, I'm glad you realize that for yourself.
Yeah.
So that was the first tool, and then after that, I started really digging into where the things are coming from. So I just said this in relationship, let's say I'm having an argument with you, and I say whatever I say, I would then step back and go, okay, where did this come from? Why did I say that? Okay, well, if I said something else, that means that Anne might not like me anymore, and that then this relationship and this friendship might be done. And
Challenge the
I
belief.
don't I don't want to be abandoned. I don't want to feel unlovable. And usually going back in my thought processes, it would end with me dying alone, me dying as unlovable, or me just dying in general. And I realized, well, that's not a really good place to operate from. That's like the opposite of loving and life and everything that I want to create and that I want to be a part of in this life. So I started to just gently change how my thought processes were working. And then I got into more and more honesty and less people pleasing. And as a result, now I've got a beautiful relationship with a partner that I never could have imagined, I would be with. And it's all to just the baby steps of checking in with what's going on up here.
100%. Absolutely. And I love how you word it, because like you say, you can't change anything unless you become aware first. But challenging that belief system is huge, because that belief system is what embeds our habits, and our habits is what puts us on autopilot of how we function every day. So being able to challenge that is massive. And yeah, it's key for lasting change. I know it's funny, you were talking about, how you backtracked. And I know I've taken some Tony Robbins training, and he talks about, the 6 needs of humans, period. It's not science. It is what it is. And significance is usually a huge one. But like everything, the laws of nature, the 7 hermetic principles, there's polarity and cause and effect in everything. So, in all the 6 human needs, the significant, the connection or love connection, and the ability to, be able to grow and evolve, the ability to contribute, like all of them there's polarity in all of them. And significance has been a huge one for a lot of people, but being able to recognize them, not just in yourself, but in other people, and then recognize whether or not it's impacting you in a positive or negative way. And what's the flip side? How can you flip it to a positive? Out of how you're functioning now with the significant needs, and what are the top two. So mine was clearly significance, like in a big
Right.
way. And I would go after significance from a negative standpoint by being very vocal and being very blunt, because that gave
Mm.
me authority and it gave me power in the back of my mind, not realizing that's what I was seeking, was actually the significance of, I mean something. My contribution matters. But like you say, to
Yes.
go back to where that habit come from, well, being the youngest and the only girl of four boys, you
Yeah.
had to struggle to be seen and heard. So
Right.
you can find the pattern, and once you find the pattern, it was like, well, do I really need it? Because the positive side of significance is being able to contribute without the gratification of even that you've contributed. You don't need to be that center of attention, and you don't have to claw and grasp at being seen and heard. Where I just was just loud and proud and thought that's just the way I was, deal with it. So it's
My
like
name
you
is Anne.
brought
I'm
up on it.
coming through.
Yes, yeah. Break the plastic. So yeah, so it's huge, because you've touched on, some of the key things that even I teach within with my own coaching, is the awareness and being able to break down those patterns and those belief systems so that you can impact your habits to create that lasting change is huge. So once you started with all that, how did your life start to reshape from there?
Oh, it's it's a difficult question because it's in my life, the way I see it, everything is intertwined. So I can't tell you for sure if it was that I was doing, or if it was, just other healing that I was doing. But over the course of the years, I got out of a marriage that was not good for myself nor my ex-wife, and that was we both realized that we got into the relationship from traumatized places, and that we were
Yeah.
both kind of people pleasing. So it was a good thing that ended, and we were able to move forward. Um, so that was one thing that has happened since. Um, I've been able to double and triple my income over the course of 5 years. I think it was that I tripled it,
Wow.
and
Nice.
then I went ahead and just stepped away from everything because it wasn't serving my soul, and it was kind of the golden handcuffs, as one could say.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've had a very large flowing experience of how that's all impacted my life. And I've obviously been in relationships, like I mentioned, where the people pleasing was still very strong even after the marriage broke up. And
Yeah.
but I think I'm on the other side now, where I'm able to really state my needs and not have to tiptoe around anything, and nor have other people tiptoe around me, and
Yeah.
that they can trust me, that I'm just going to be the person that I say I am.
Yeah. Yeah. The eggshell walking can really creep in and you don't realize it. Like, I have a child that has some neurodivergent special needs, so sensitive in a lot of different areas. So we catch ourselves tiptoeing around her sometimes. And when I catch it, I'm like, nope,
Mm,
that shit's gonna stop. Because
right.
it's not helping her learning evolve, other than having people cater to her needs, which isn't going to happen in real life. So it's tough, because like you say, that stuff can come in so subtly. and you don't recognize it or see it. So it's huge. So how did this whole evolution lead you into your current business and what you're doing now and how you're impacting?
Oh, well, when before I fell down the mountain, this was late December of 2012. You know how like the whole like it's the end of the world according to the Mayan calendar, right?
Right.
And right around then, I had this dream that I was in a backyard and there were these owls flying around me, circling around me. And then out of the corner of the backyard, this little blue boy showed up and he handed me this copper colored thing and gave it to me. And I just kind of looked at it and kind of, what is this? Like, what do I do with this? And then he motioned to the top of his head. And oh, look at that. And so then I finally was able to understand that what I was supposed to do is I was supposed to go through an experience that included a copper colored rock, just like one of my 9 angels picked up for me at the top of the mountain and gave it to me later in the hospital. I was supposed to take that experience and then be able to teach and help people through their own healing journeys without having to fall down a mountain. So that was the
Yeah.
very, very, very beginning of it. Obviously, didn't do any kind of work around that for almost 10 years. And
That's
then,
typical.
yeah, obviously did my own healing and everything, and then got exposed to human design
Mm.
and family constellations. Have you heard of human design?
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up. I've done my human design and I've done gene keys. So
Okay.
I struggle understanding human design. I like the gene, even though they're very much aligned. I
Yes,
can read
yes.
the gene keys and connect the dots. I don't understand the human design. So carry
Fair.
on.
Fair. Okay.
We'll touch on that one next.
Yes. Yeah, so with everything that I'd learned and gained and all the books I'd read, all the podcasts I listened to, all the therapy sessions and all the other healing modalities that I'd been a part of, I'd been integrating into this business based mainly around human design. And then I'm going to be weaving family constellations into this as well. And for the last 3 years or so, I've been doing human design readings and coaching people on their journeys. And yeah, it's been a slow progression, but I'm here nevertheless.
Wow. So explain to our viewers, because not everybody knows about human design or gene keys. Um, and the gene keys is pretty straightforward. You still enter the exact same information, but
Yes.
explain human design. What is it and how you can utilize it to help someone else navigate their path?
Mm, I mm.
It's a lot, I know.
Yes, yes. I love being able to talk about human design. And I what happened there was I realized that I was getting a little bit, you know, jumpy in my body. I'm like, oh, you know what? I'll take a moment to just settle myself.
Yep,
So
just breathe. Yeah.
human design is based off of five other modalities that are then brought into this one system. So astrology, the I Ching from ancient China, the chakra system, which according to human design went through mutation back in 1781, where we mutated to nine-centered beings instead of just seven. So there's that, and then there's also the Kabbalist tree of life. Are you familiar with that? It's got one dot on the
A
bottom and
little
then a
bit.
bunch of lines. Yeah, kind of
Yeah.
looks like a rectangle on the top with all different lines and
Yeah.
different balls connected. Yeah, that's the Kabbalist tree of life. That's part of it as well. and then finally quantum physics. All of that to create one of 5 energy types. So you're either a generator, a manifesting generator, a manifester, a projector, or a reflector. So those are the 5 types. And then there are a bunch of authorities, which is, well, I won't list them, but once you know your authority, that is, according to human design, how one is supposed to be making decisions. So every energy type, so one of the 5, comes with their own unique strategy. So how it's best to show up in the world. We're not, contrary to popular belief, which is what society has been telling us, is go out there, initiate things, and just do what you want to do. There's only one type, energy type, that is supposed to do that.
Right.
And that is the manifester, and there are less than 10% of the population are manifestors.
Yeah.
And even those people have to are supposed to do it in a very specific way before they go out and do things. They're supposed to
And then
tell
we
people.
wonder why we struggle. Yeah.
Yes, and yeah. So the generators and manifesting generators are supposed to respond to life. Oh, there's a a cup of coffee waiting to be drank. I want that. I'm going to go drink that. Done. Then there are the projectors, which is my type. We're only about 20% of the population, and we work best for the big decisions in life to have invitations come to us. So businesses, where to live, what relationships to be in. And the final one is they're reflectors. They're kind of like the starfish in the sea or the frogs in a pond or in a forest. They are just supposed to be there to witness. And if their community is doing well, they do well. If their community is having issues, you can see it in the way that this person is living. So very,
Yeah.
very diverse ways of showing up in the world. And so once I got into alignment with my specifically energy type and authority, everything started changing, even more so than when I started to work with my mindset. And the mindset stuff got even easier because I wasn't trying to live in an unaligned way. I wasn't trying to push for things. I wasn't trying to make things happen. I was
Yep.
supposed to let things come to me and go, oh, okay, right. This is a possibility. This is a possibility. This is a possibility. Which one do I choose? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very, 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 so that's the snowflake on
Yes.
top of the tip of the iceberg. So when I work with people, I work with the tip of the iceberg, but then there's still everything under the waterline that you can't see
That's
that
huge.
is human design that we don't have time to get into and is really
No.
not usable or rational for people to use on a daily
No.
basis.
But you hit on a key point, because one of the things that I've always struggled with is I've got a very strong A-type personality. And like you say, where society teaches us to go after things. And I, for many years, lacked patience beyond
Mm.
belief, and wondering why I was always struggling and why I'm just plugging in my flash drive here because I want to see if I can find mine right quick. But
Oh,
I always
yes.
struggled with patience. Like, I'm like, teach me everything yesterday. So when I started my healing journey, God love her, I got connected with this beautiful soul that is into the gene keys and the human design, but not in depth. So she probably is not into it as deep as you are. But she, I was like, teach me how to do all this stuff yesterday. And of course, you cannot do it. And so she'd laugh at me just like you did, and she'd be like, oh, Ann dear, like it'll come to you. And I'm like, I don't have patience for it to come to me. Show me now. It was like, yeah,
Exactly.
no. So it's tough when you've been taught lack, because I don't believe lack of patience is fully integrated in your being. It could be a bit, but I think we're also taught lack of patience. And I was taught a lot of lack of patience to be to be to be, to be blunt. So in all of that, I was like learning human design, and even like for me, reading the gene keys was a bit easier because I could relate. We're looking at the human design, all the dots connect. Like it didn't make any sense to me. My brain couldn't wrap my head around that. So
Hmm.
I struggled, but you're right. When you start to tap into these and you understand them and you can be more authentic based on what they're telling you or explaining to you, because that's really at your core, that makes better sense. And like I say, for somebody that lacks patience, well, let me ask you this. For somebody that lacks patience and their human design is saying they need to have patience, how do you navigate that?
Hmm. Well, just encourage them to keep practicing what patience might be. And I when I am suggesting things in terms of anything, I don't say like, oh, you have to do this. You know,
Right.
it's not a all or nothing kind of situation for me. It's
Right.
a just just maybe not in every aspect of your life, but maybe just pick one area and then just try just being a little bit more patient in there, and then see what happens. So that's how I would encourage people to be a little bit more patient, or to work with their specific design, energy type or authority.
Okay. Yeah. So I found mine. I'm going to try to share my screen here if that's okay with
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. I
Be-
love looking at people's charts. Mm,
This was not part of the plan, but that's okay.
yeah, yeah,
We'll shift and navigate.
perfect.
Okay, let me see if I
Oh,
can
I'm
share
so
my screen.
curious. I'm so curious about
You probably
who.
already know what I am. Oh my
Well,
God.
do you know what? I've come to a point where I've stopped guessing because I've gotten it wrong so many times. And there's
Oh wow.
so for example, my I've got a family friend who is in his 60s and has been living life as a manifesting generator.
Oh wow.
And this gentleman is a projector. And so he's not supposed to be working as hard as he has been.
So can you see
Okay.
that?
Yes. Yeah. Can you scroll down a little bit more?
I'm gonna, oh, there we go. Does that help?
Okay. So, yeah. So, yeah, emotional generator. Okay. Uh, okay. Okay. Um, I see. I see where your outspokenness comes from. So the 1858 down at the bottom, that's the channel of judgment. So the 18 of seeing what's imperfect and wanting it to be perfect, and then the 58 is the joyous vitality, this drive to have things you know be completed in whatever way possible. And when you connect those two, bam, you've got the channel of judgment and power force
So
to reckon with, to make things happen.
so you're looking at
Then
this
yeah,
58 here and this 18 down
I'm
here?
actually looking down at the chart itself. So if you look at the
Oh, okay.
bottom, if
Oh,
you look
down
at the
here.
very bottom square, at the very bottom left,
Yep.
there's the 58
Oh, okay.
and
Yep.
916. Oh, okay. So your birthday is in early December.
Late November. Yep.
Oh, late November. Okay. Okay. Because
Yep.
um, yeah, interesting. That's really cool to see. So yeah, 9, 16, 40, and 37. So the 9 is the ability to focus on things as much as you need to. And then the 52 that mates up with that. So if you look at the bottom two squares, You see the 9 and the 52 connected in that line. You see
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that means that you can focus and you can sit and you can meditate for hours if you really wanted to. But then you've also got this 4037 connecting the two triangles on the right side. That's very community oriented. And then you've got this massive amount of power that you're able to apply to either your own life or to help you survive in whatever way is necessary. Um, yeah, so that's just a little bit of what I see in your chart here. Um, actually, one of the most important ones that I see is so you see the center diamond, the kind of
Yellow
yellow
diamond.
green.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the very top of that is the number 1, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That is the first gate. In gene keys, it's the first gene, the gene key.
Right.
This is the most uh, masculine or like male driven force in the
Yeah.
whole chart. And you have that activated by Mercury in the 5th line. So you will, because Mercury is responsible for for speaking and communication, you'll naturally want to speak in a way that is direct, forceful, and in a leadership kind of tone as well. So once you speak, people will be a little bit more keen to listen to you and actually do what you want them to do, as long as
Interesting.
it's in line with your authority, which is emotional, which we don't have enough time to get into that. But it was thank you very much for letting me look at your chart. That was really cool. So that begs the question for me: how did you start this podcast?
Oh my God. Honestly, here, I'll stop sharing so we can see each other
Mhm.
again. Um, honestly, this podcast came about. Let me think. How did this come about? Um, things drop in for me now.
Okay.
I don't, I never used to function that way, but yeah, I allow shit to drop in on me now. And what happened is I was doing some massive Tony Robbins training and I was having some major downloads. So anybody who's done Tony Robbins knows it's intense. It like they even call it the Tony flu when you're done his like 4, 5, 6, 7 day trainings because it's so intense. So
Mm.
it was after a Tony Robbins training that I realized podcasts have been tapping me for a while and ignoring them because all I see is all this time, energy, and effort. And then things shifted. It kept tapping me, but because of my own growth and evolution, it was like, okay, this doesn't have to be time consuming and effort first. Second, it was like, I want to impact people. What a better way to impact masses? So
Mm.
as I'm going through my Tony training, I had the drop in and I'm like, literally, holy fuck. Like I'm always saying, this shit can't be it. And I was like trying to come up with a name for a podcast, but it literally just dropped into the point of no, podcasting needs to be part of what I'm doing. And so I took a 5 day challenge with my good friend Payman. So anybody wants to get into podcasting, let me know. I'll hook you up with payment. So I did this 5 day challenge with him, and he's going through like very great detailed information. And of course, me, my personality, somehow I got the nickname from him, Happy Feet. But and he felt my podcast should be like Happy Feet, and I'm like, yeah, no, it's a nice nickname, but nope. And then it just out of the blue, it hit me. This shit can't be it because I'm like, how many of us say this to each other? Like we look at life, whether it be our ongoing life or if it's circumstantial or whatever it is, how often are we saying this shit can't be it? And I'm
Mm,
like, I used to say it often. And that's when my whole journey shifted. My husband and I were out having a fire one night, and he went in the house to grab us a couple of drinks, and I'm sitting at the fire and I'm listening to the crackling because, like you say, I can get lost in the being part. Never used to, but I
mm,
do now. And I'm listening to
good.
the fire snap and crackle, and I'm watching the flames, and I'm like, literally, like you say, like I'm like you. I'm not in that religious box. And I literally used to always say, there's got to be more to life, but that's all I would ask. Like you say, power of words, right? And I
Yeah.
literally sat there one night and I was like, this shit can't be it. Like, fucking show me how. So it was when I said, show me how, the floodgates started to open. And that's when I was introduced to Bahia in her group. And that's where I got connected with human design and Gene Keys. And she actually had the group diving into Gene Keys when I ended up moving. So I stopped her group because it was a lot of work moving. And I never did get back to it because where we moved required more travel. So I would miss her meetings. So I ended up jumping out of that group for that reason, but I missed it because we were right in the middle of Gene Keys and I was loving it because I was having awarenesses everywhere. And everything evolved after that to the point of where I am now, even right down to my job. Like I was in a like high drive, high energy, fast paced, high stress, constantly in fight mode at work.
Mhm.
And to the point where I was like, when it got slow, I was like, I'm done here. Like my plan was to grow my business and wean out, but I was like, no, we're good. Like it's slow. I don't love it here. And I literally went to my manager one day. We were having a conversation and it just slipped out of my mouth. Like it was like, well, if you need to lay people off, I could use a break. I left there and I'm like, what the fuck did you just do? Because I mean, I was making good money. It was not easy to walk away, and I didn't want to start a new job because that would take away my momentum and like getting my business in place because my coaching program wasn't ready yet, but it was getting there. And I was like, I literally walked out of her office and I was like, what the fuck did you just do? So like she said, oh no, that's not going to happen. So a couple months down the road, when it happened, I had 90 seconds of pure shock of holy shit, what am I going to do now? To fucking yeah, this is awesome. And I'm like, how many people would react that way to losing their job? And I was
Mm,
like, this is what Tony talks about. So when I started into the Tony training and he talked about being able to control our own state and our own how we think, feel, and what meanings we give events that are happening outside of us, because we can't control them. We cannot
yeah.
control them. But how we respond to them, the meaning we give them, and how we feel about them, all of that impacts our personal being, our energy and our state, which impacts our outer world. So while everyone else is like mortified because losing your job is like death, and when you do the high volume work that I did, like three of us were in our team and we did over $40 million of business consistently for almost 2 to 3 years. It was ramping up to that. So that's a lot of volume. Nobody else in the company did that kind of volume, but I didn't love it. Like the high pressure, like I used to thrive on it in my earlier years. Now that I'm older, I'm like, this shit can't be it. So I was like, this is not what I want to do anymore. So I was like, well, how can I get heading into my 50s? I was like, how can I navigate what I enjoy doing into a business so that I can wean out of my job and make that my life. And so that's where coaching came into play. And when I got laid off, I was like, I'm going to catapult into coaching and into my business. Well, I didn't know what I didn't know. So the first year I was off, it was all learning because everything I was being told to do, I would do because I'm
Mhm.
having a job. You don't realize how much you rely on direction, but when you're independent, you have to be your own leader. And although I was very independent at work and I was always given space to do things my way to a certain degree, I still had structure that I fell into. So although I was out of the box functioning, I was in the box with the picture. So
Yeah.
now that I'm out of the box and I'm like floundering, I call it floundering like a fish on land because I didn't know what I didn't know. The first year was a lot of learning, a lot of growing. So it's been a slow burn for me to get my business up off the ground because I didn't know what I didn't know. And
Mm.
being that controlling type A personality, I'm like, feed me. So I'm like learning, and I'm like, nothing's happening because I'm spending so much time learning. And it was like, nope, shit's gonna shift. So
Mm,
it was literally, I had my own coach that I had when I was working. She really skyrocketed me huge. And then when I got laid off, I was done with her, so I kind of plateaued a bit. But then she was like, "No, Anne, where you're laid off, you come back in, and I'll give you access to all my online stuff." And she, at that point, early on during my layoff, I was laid off 2 days before my 50th birthday. How freaking exciting is that to start the second half
wow.
of the century on a new playing field? Like, you know,
Yes.
but she, but when she brought me in, she works with the Akashic Records. So
Mm,
doing her training was really taking me off that hyper plateau that I was functioning on for the last 50 years,
right.
bringing me down here, grounding me to a level of shit really started to come in, and
Mm,
things were opening up, and I was starting to follow versus trying to force create. So I started following, but the following was leading me down paths that wasn't business bringing in money. It was the evolution to get me to where I am now. So, but that's a journey I had to go on to be here. So when the podcast dropped in, because like I said, it had been banging for a while, like
yep.
prior, and I kept ignoring it. So when it finally came in, I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing with podcasts. So I took Payman's 5-day challenge, and I was like, okay, like the shit had already started before that challenge, but that gave me enough juice to catapult me into being here. And the name, like I was like, what am I going to call this name? So I'm on like Chat GPT, and I'm like, nope, this is not working. Nope, 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 nope. I was even deleting chats to clear the memory because it wasn't working. And I was like, fuck, this shit can't be it. I was like, there we go.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes, my
saying it
catchphrase.
all the time. So yeah.
Well, that's amazing. It sounds like you really got into podcasting in line with your human design, which is to respond. It kept knocking on your door saying, yeah, do
Yeah.
podcast, right? You waited, which is what you're supposed to do with the emotional wave is just wait for the up and down to get that emotional clarity. And sounds like you went through some
See,
of
I
that.
battle with that part.
Yeah. And here you are. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I'm really happy that I get to hear that first person and then also witness just
Heck yeah.
how well it suits you as well. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on here.
Yes, and I'm thankful you're here. So I'm going to have your information. So if people want to connect with you, it will be down in the description of this video. And I'm going to upload to Spotify as well. So the Audible and the description and everything will be there as well. So anybody that wants to connect with you, they can connect with you and get their human design done and figure out how they can navigate their life through that powerful tool, because it's crazy how accurate this stuff is. Like, it blows my mind.
Yeah, and just circling back to what we had talked about earlier about the people pleasing and everything, I've actually created a course based on everything that I'd gone through myself, um, called and now I've got a relationship preparation course. So I've
Nice.
taken all of that, ask yourself all the questions, take everything that you used to think was good and analyze it, and then build a proper foundation for how you want to move forward. So,
I
yeah,
love that.
just another little tool that I've got access to as well. So, yeah,
I
if
love that.
you want to connect, that'd be amazing. That'd be amazing. I've also got a couple discount codes um, in honor of Anne. And 20 for the first 20 people that want to sign up for any course that I have available, 20% off of any. And then and 10 for the first 100 people for 10% off of any course. So
Oh, that's
yeah.
so awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure.
That
Thank
makes
you.
me so happy.
I really
Yeah.
loved being in your warm generator energy. As
Oh,
it's
that's awesome.
it's been
And you
an
know what's
honor and a
funny?
pleasure.
You're talking, and when you were doing my human design thing, I'm like, oh my God, my program is called Ignite Your Personal Power. You
Oh,
talk about me being that powerful force. I'm like, holy shit. Oh, Lord, that's hilarious. That's awesome. So I will make sure this information is at the bottom of this video so that anybody that wants to connect with you, Jonathan, I encourage them to. So thank you so much for joining me today. This was awesome. We went over, but all good.
Yes. Thank you very
Excellent.
much.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Take care.